Welcome to another episode of Voices of SUP, where we chat to some inspirational people in the stand-up paddling community. Now, just a reminder, these videos are split into two different sections, with the first section being available for everyone to watch, where we can learn a little bit more about our Voice of SUP. And that second section is only available for those pro subscribers in SUPboarder Magazine, so scroll down now if you're a pro subscriber, you'll be able to unlock that pro video. I'm really excited to introduce our guest today. We're going to be talking all things shaping, all things stand-up paddleboards. He's a world-renowned SUP shaper and surfboard shaper. He seems to be the face of stand-up paddleboarding with his interviewing and commentating on the APP World Tour and just in the sport in general. He starred in numerous stand-up paddleboard movies. He is an elite SUP surfer, racer, downwind paddler himself. He's the king of the grab rail carve on a SUP. One of the most enthusiastic, awesome people to be around. Let's welcome the man who is shaping the future of SUP with his brand Infinity. It's the brown blur, Dave Boehne.
Well, thank you, Beau. It's good to get a couple compliments out of one of your buds from the APP World Tour golden years like yourself. But yeah, I've been doing it just as long as you have, and it's been fun. And really, I just like you're saying, I just like to have fun, and I take opportunities as they come. It's not necessarily I'm trying to do this or do that. I just kind of go with the flow and what feels good. And paddling's done a lot of cool things for me. Got to see a lot of cool places, meet a lot of cool people that I probably wouldn't have met before. And yeah, it's just fun. It's just fun to get out there.
Awesome. But let's talk about that grab rail carve. I'm a fan. I'm sure everyone's a fan. How hard are they to do? Because I've been trying for years and I haven't done it yet.
Yeah. No, it's funny. It's like, that's what was cool about stand-up paddling in the beginning, is really you could like you could be someone to do the first at something, you know what I mean? And I remember when the stand-up paddle surf thing was really starting to take on, there's always that classic layback turn you could do, and it feels so good. And it's probably the first turn everybody learns, but it gets repetitive, and you're like, okay, and you're starting to get in heats. You're like, okay, how could I mix it up instead of do 5 layback turns, and just start trying different stuff. And we all want to try to be shortboarders on those things. So I've always been a big fan of a grab rail turn. So now it's just like, all right, how do I do this? But I have my paddle in my hand. So, you start breaking it down in your head, how you're going to do it. And of course, the first few failed miserably, and then, slowly do one. And now, yeah, you can do them whenever you want. It's fun, but you can't do them all the time because they get overplayed. So you got to lay it down when no one expects it.
Nice. That's the way to do it for sure.
Yeah, man.
Apart from still shaping, we're going to get into that shortly. But apart from that, you've moved into a lot of commentating positions recently. And I'm sure you've been in it over the years in the sport as well. But what drew you to get involved with commentating and interviewing athletes?
Yeah. You know what? It's funny. I've always kind of just liked people. I always just like to have a good time, like you're saying. And growing up when I was a kid and stuff, like I did some acting. I've done a little bit of that kind of stuff. And for instance, like hosting the SUP awards or anything, it's not like I approached SUP the magazine and go, hey man, I think I'd be great for this job. People were just like, hey, you interested in hosting the SUP awards? That'd be cool. And I think you'd be good. And I'm like, oh wow, I'm kind of nervous to do that, but yeah, why not? So I'm pretty neutral. Like I'm friends with everybody. I don't have any beef with nobody or nothing like that. Like I'm pretty just a low key guy. So and like you're saying, like we've been in the sport a long time, so I have a perspective from being a racer, from being a surfer, a competitor. So and running a brand and making boards. So I believe I have a unique insight, and yeah, it's just fun. And, one gig leads to the next gig. So that's basically it.
It sounds like that SUP and just the sport in general is just so fun to be a part of. What is it that you enjoy so much about it that you're able to do all these things and that you can get those opportunities?
Yeah, I think stand-up paddling, compared to like surfing, like I still surf quite a bit and I grew up surfing and, that whole culture, like stand up paddling, like, for lack of a better term, it's just like you could be yourself more. You know what I mean? Like there's not as much judgment. Like surfing, there's it's so quick to hate, and have an opinion on everything. Stuff everyone's just stoked for you. Like you're stoked. Like you see, I used to see you do those crazy surf trips and stuff, and get some rad footage and everything. And I'd be like, dude, that's sick. Like stoked for Beau. You're not like, oh man, I don't know. It's just everyone's just so cool. And I think that's from the whole paddling culture. Before paddling and SUP, when I surfed, I looked at paddling through a different lens where you're like, it's just kind of fun. But once you really get into the culture of and the history of paddling, and like what it means to places like Tahiti and Hawaii, and the respect like some of the gnarliest paddlers, legendary paddlers get, you really start to understand what paddling is all about. And I have a whole different respect for just simply the sport of paddling. And once I got that figured out, like all I wanted to do is be a complete waterman as possible. Like I want to cross a channel, I want to know how to downwind, I want to get in an outrigger, all that stuff, because the guys who I think are the biggest studs can do all that stuff. And that's what's cool, just being well-rounded ocean man. And it sounds silly, waterman or whatever, but truly, like those are the guys I look up to the most, the guys who are good at everything. And there's a lot of studs in the paddling world.
I think it's true that SUP does make you a very rounded person, because there's just so many disciplines within the sport that people have the ability to be able to go and be a racer, try their hand at a downwind, go surfing, and do all that kind of stuff. So I think that's a really cool part of the sport, and it's what a lot of people are stoked on, which is cool.
Yeah, no doubt. And I mean, like you came from surfing, and you picked up paddling through that. And same thing is like, because you longboarded a lot, correct? Before stand up paddling. Yeah, and it's like I longboarded too, like Colin McPhillips. Like we all came from longboarding. And back in the day, I would get flack for longboarding, being a longboarder. I've just always been someone that wants to ride anything and try everything.
Definitely.
And so it wasn't hard to translate to SUP. It's like, cool, yeah, I want to try it.
Yeah, for sure. And when SUPs first came out, they were like big, they were like a longboard. It was pretty easy for us, like coming from that longboard background, to jump on in the waves, walk the board, get into it that way. And then I guess Infinity was kind of like, your dad started it, and he was kind of like a pioneer in the SUP shaping, and also in tandem surfing, I hear, as well. And he was like started really early designing boards for that. Did he see an emerging market of SUP back then when he decided to start it, or was he just shaping for tandem boards and just thought, just bring it into his day-to-day business?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, it's funny, the name Infinity partially comes from everything. So like, we've always made everything, whatever it is, my dad makes it, so he's never like thought anything's kooky or he doesn't want to try that. With the whole explosion of windsurfing in the 80s, like he was right there making custom windsurf boards and racing Prindle and Hobie Cat boats. Like we even sold Hobies and Prindle boats at our surf shop, like we were a dealer for them. I remember we were at San Onofre, and the first time I ever saw it, I think I was with my dad, and it might have been the first time he ever saw it. And it was actually Jerry Lopez and Ron House were out on these stand-up paddle boards at San Onofre, and didn't think much about it. We're just like, oh, what's Jerry Lopez doing here? Like with the paddle on a surfboard. It's kind of weird. It must be some Hawaii thing, But shortly after that, guys started asking my dad to make them one, because like you said, the boards were so big at the time, 12 foot, 11 foot, like thick, wide. And, he was known to make tandem boards. So tandem boards were the first stand-up paddle boards we started to make, was basically tandem boards, because they were easy to make. And it's cool because as you start meeting people like, guys like Blaine Chambers, legendary shaper, even Dave Kalama, Chuck Patterson, guys, their first stand-up experience or boards were on Infinity tandem boards, so that's pretty cool. But yeah, it was just that's part of the luck we had. My dad was already making big weird stuff, and because at that time a lot of shapers didn't even really know where to get a blank that big or anything like that. And so like his boards worked right away because they were already tuned for surfing. So it was just easy. And then everything went from there. So yeah.
Yeah, it still seems like the boards are still working today because you have such a strong team of riders behind the brand. Speed freaks, you call them.
Yeah,
They're
man.
some of the best paddlers in the business, honestly. And you must be doing a lot of research and development behind each design. You've got guys on the team like Giorgio Gomez, Slater Trout, Candace Appleby, Izzy Gomez, Shea Fowdy. Did they bring any design elements to the boards when they were brought onto the team, or were they coming to you to look for something different?
Yeah. Team riders, I feel, play a big part into design. Luckily for me, like, you know, I was a decent enough racer and a decent enough surfer. I could prototype really quickly by myself, but it's always great to get multiple people on the design and get their feedback and figure out what they're feeling versus what I'm feeling. Or even like to, kind of get the stamp of approval of what I'm feeling and where I want to go. But the team riders, they're the guys leading the charge. So wherever they're going, that's where design tends to go as well. And like Slater Trout was a big part of that. We were always making really fast race boards, but we didn't really have a guide to match it with back in the day. So you could tell people your boards are fast, but you kind of need that, I don't know, approval or from the public, like to see someone doing well on your board. At least with equipment and design, I feel that's important. And when we got Slater, he really put us on the map that way. And him and I worked on a race board that we still make today called the Blackfish. And he really pushed me to design that board because at the time we were just having displacement hulls, pointy nose boards, and no one's really seen like that bulbousy kind of planing hull design at that point. So he pushed me to do that, and we worked on that, and it worked really well. And now everyone pretty much has that version of that in their line. So he helped a lot. When I started working with Candace, that was, she came from Surf Tech and Bark. She started riding for us. And to be honest, like that, I was like nervous, because Candace was already winning races. At that point, she was the best in the world. And at that point, she's never ridden anything besides a Bark. It's like her magic slipper. So like for me to make a board, I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is so crazy. And she likes boards completely different than what Slater Trout likes. So that was the challenge there. And but it was cool. Our very first board, she went on a crazy tear and she won the world title that year. And it was just, I don't know, couldn't have written that story better, but that was incredible. So that really, Slater and Candace really put us on the map as far as racing.
And I feel like you might have even been one of the first to bring out some really small SUPs as well, just for yourself riding them.
Yeah. I got a good story with that too. Were you at that first Location X
I did
APP event
do a
in
location
BVI's?
next one. Oh, BVI.
Okay.
Hang on. I think
I
I
thought
was.
I might have. I
Yeah,
thought I
yeah.
remember you there.
Was it
Remember
Apple
we're all on the
Apple Pay?
boats?
Apple?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
We're all on the boats and
Yeah,
everything
yeah,
and,
that's
and all
right.
that stuff. Anyway, that was super rad. But I remember we all got there a few days early, right? And we all went to go surf. So everyone's pulling out their boards on the boat, on the deck. And everyone's there. Kai's there, Kiahi, Zane, Vaz brothers, everybody, right? And at that time, I kid you not, I pulled out the smallest board out of everybody. I'm talking all those guys. And they're all tripping out. They're all, what? Like, what is this? Blah, blah, blah. Like, baffled because everybody's board was like 8 feet at that time, 7'11" maybe. And I think I had a 7'7". And people were just like mind blown or something, And that tripped me out. And then the next event, all of a sudden, Zane's on a 7'2", like da 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 da. But yeah, it's crazy. And I think it's only because, because we're a custom brand at first, you know. So I was able to prototype, like, I mean, right there the next day. And, you know, at that time, you know, Kai's riding for Nash and Starboard or whatever, they're riding production boards. So, you know, just the prototyping is probably a little bit behind back then, but um, you know, people do it different now. But yeah, I remember that, and that was crazy. And I remember Kiahi, when he came up on the scene, he was doing all those airs, probably the first guy to do airs in heats, and his boards were like 8.5, you know, 8.0, 8.5. And I remember checking him on the beach, and I could not believe he was doing these airs on this big old board. And I don't know, it was just wild. I always remembered, like, man, if I can make whoever a board like he rips already, oh man, I'd love to make a board. He would kill it, you know. And yeah, it's been fun. Fortunately, I've slid a couple sneaky boards under people that you wouldn't think I've had over the
Yeah.
years, and that's been fun. That's been fun
Yeah,
for sure.
that's nice, definitely. And like going on that, Infinity started as, you know, shaping custom boards, but you know, now you've got such a diverse range of equipment. Are you always trying to develop new ideas, innovative ideas with your designs?
You do get to a place like right now, like I feel my range is pretty well rounded, you know. So you're like, okay, what's next? You know, every one of these boards takes care of everything I personally want to do. So that's where a team rider comes in, or an off the wall custom order, because that kind of gets you out of that thing. And so like what I've been working on recently is, like, you know, there's a whole mid-length trend in surfing going on. So I've had a couple guys that want, you know, mid-length style SUP. So I've made a couple of those. We used to make a twin fin, like a giant mini Simmons style SUP, um, which we sold a lot of, for like 3 years. Is like our number one board, you know. But I think there's a lot more to do in the twin fin space for an SUP. So I've been working on a twin fin, um, and then yeah, just, I mean, those are the two things I'm currently working on. And I've always done a lot of asymmetrics, so I'm finally at a place where I might offer an asymmetric in production on a limited basis. It's just the asymmetrics are hard to sell because, you know, you make them for one stance specific, you automatically cut half the people who want that board out of the equation, and then, you know, they're pretty small and radical, so then that's also hard. You know, I probably won't sell a lot of them, but I think I want to do it.
Yeah, that'd be super cool to see one of those, definitely.
Yeah, I ride ASIMs personally pretty much. I mean, all the time. Pretty much is what I ride. Yeah.
And for those people who may not know what asymmetric does, so you have a shorter rail on one side of the board, and that's going to make you do a tighter turn in the pocket. Then you have a longer rail, which is generally, my thoughts were, for a bottom turn, and then you want to get that tight top turn.
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of people, the way I explain it when they don't really get it is, you know, when you lean forward and your ankle, the way your ankle works, you know, it's real easy to lean forward and engage and keep your balance. But if you lean back, you know, you fall over a lot quicker. So if you could have that pressure engage a little quicker on your heel side, you know, it's going to help. If they're built the right way, they truly are two boards cut in half and stuck back together. Like, what's cool is because, like, there's no rules, you know, on this side of the stringer, on this side of the stringer, you can make the rocker completely different than this one, the exit rocker, the bottom contour, um, any of that. So like, if you actually look at a lot of asymmetrics from the tail upside down and you're looking down at the contours, you know, at least mine, like one side has I do like a double concave on the toe side for that grip. And then I do just a nice simple V on the heel side to get that smooth rollover, quicker rollover with less resistance. And it's weird. If you're really thinking on a wave and you feel it and you're S turning, you could feel it from rail to rail, the different feels of it, you know. I got inspired from my dad. My dad was making asymmetrics, you know, just like in the 80s and stuff. And he actually, his theory on asymmetric is the opposite of mine. You know, like, I like the short rail on my heel. He likes the short rail on his toe. So we make them the opposite. So the new ones I've made, I've actually put the short side on the toe just to try it. I think the asymmetric, especially for like a SUP application, because SUPs are so much wider, makes a lot of sense. And also, you know, like the stepped rail. So I've been making a lot with a stepped rail. with an asymmetric, and there's a way you could keep the stability in an asymmetric, but have that smaller advantage for the heel side, and it feels really nice. It's just knifer, you know. Sometimes the wider tails won't bite the way you want, and asymmetric helps a lot with that.
Have you always shaped your own boards?
Yeah, it's funny because like my dad and my brother shape, so I ride a lot of their boards too. And it's cool because we're all into making different things. My brother doesn't stand up paddle; he's a straight up shortboarder. He rips. He's a better surfer than I am, and he just does high performance shortboards. You know, guns. He makes big wave guns for, you know, jaws, towing boards, all that kind of stuff. That's like where his deal is. And then I'm more into like fishes and hybrids, retro stuff, longboards, and of course stand-up paddle boards, and race boards. And then my dad kind of does everything too, including wave skis. Yeah, it's cool because I've really dived into CAD design. Like the way I got into shaping when I was like 10 or 11 with my brother, and did the whole hand shaping thing from scratch, you know. And my brother and my dad still do a fair bit of hand shaping, but I don't hand shape at all. I do 100% design on CAD and then finish it by hand. So like, yeah, I hand shaped like over 100 boards, but then I kind of got out of it because I really got into graphic design and marketing and things like that when I was in my teens. And when CAD design started coming around again, it really like got me excited again because I was already into graphic design and computer design, aided design. So I was like, wow. So I really dived into that. And so all my stuff's designed on CAD design and then hand you know, finished.
Before we finish up, Dave, we've got a little quick fire question round here. We like to call it the sprint round.
Let's do it.
So it's just the first answer that comes to your head, whatever it is. I just want you to just spit it out.
This could be dangerous.
It could be dangerous. The questions are pretty basic questions, but
yeah,
you'll be fine.
Well, I think we're pretty safe. We're in the morning. If it was around happy hour, you might get different answers.
Yeah. Exactly. First question. So one board to use for the rest of your life. Would it be a surf SUP, surfboard, race SUP, foil, downwind, boogie board?
I would have to say just a surfboard. Yeah. A surfboard, because I think I could surf it anywhere, anytime. You know, no regulations, no nothing. It's easy to travel with. I would have to say a surfboard.
Yeah, good answer. What about what's your favorite contest you've been to?
Competitive wise?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the APP does a good job of going to some crazy spots, you know, like we were saying, the BVIs. I mean,
yeah,
who does that? I mean, that's pretty rad. We've gotten really lucky scoring waves this year, like in Canary Islands was epic. I miss Barbados, kicking myself for that one. The waves were pumping. But I would say just for me, that BVI trip was just unique and rad. And you just think about who was there and the time of it was pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was really cool.
And Sunset Beach is always pretty sick.
That's be one of my favorite events for sure.
Yeah, man.
Sunset. Warm or cold water to paddle in?
Ooh, I'm a warm water guy. Definitely. I mean, you know, I got dark skin, so I like to go to the islands.
Yes. Who's the best person to sup with?
You know what? There's so many fun people to surf with. I've had probably my most fun times with Slater Trout. You know, Slater Trout, one of my best friends, and he keeps me on my toes. You know what I mean? He's a goofball, and he's always like willing to do anything. He's a very creative guy, and he always gets me stoked. So yeah, I think Slater's my favorite to paddle with.
Nice. What's your ideal wave size?
You know what? I just like a couple feet overhead. You know what I mean? Yeah, just a couple feet overhead. You can kind of do whatever you want. I just want to get a lot of turns in. You know, I'm not really the big wave, you know, frother. You know, sure, I like big waves here and there, but I just want to go out and get some good waves.
Yeah.
California is not good enough. So if I dream of a wave, it's like a couple feet overhead and a long left.
Who inspires you?
As far as paddling or just
Just
in
in life,
general.
in general.
I mean, gosh, there's a handful of people, probably a couple that people would probably think is funny, but like even guys like a Kobe Bryant, just the mentality of Kobe Bryant, you could take, what he calls the Mamba mentality, you could take anywhere you go in
Yeah.
competition, in work, in life. He's just a basketball player, to a lot of people. He's not this prophet or God or anything, but, I'm a big fan. And, just a mentality like that to, I think is awesome. Like to not be lazy, seize the day, seize the moment. Anybody who just kind of seizes the moment, I've really tried to do that as I get older. Is like, we get to travel wherever we are and everything. And I really like to take the time and seize the moment, like, watch that sunset go down, no matter where I am, and just, give thanks and just be stoked. And so, anybody inspiring that's just doing their thing. I mean, someone like Kai Lenny is, dude, he's just so epic. He's like, Kai Lenny blows my mind, I wish he still supped because I made him a couple freshies for Sunset Beach that hasn't even got wet yet.
Oh, no.
So I haven't even got to see these boards in action, Beau, but I think he'll come back one day.
Yeah.
But someone like Kai Lenny, like he seizes the day, dude. Like,
Definitely.
I mean, all that he does in a day is just mind blowing, and that inspires me. Like
for sure.
I could get lazy like anybody, and to see everybody seizing the day like that gets me out of bed.
Yeah, nice. I think that's very true. Last question, Dave. What is your favorite board in the Infinity range?
If I'm going surf sup, my favorite board right now is the New Deal. The longboard style one. That's what I catch myself riding on a lot more these days. And then if it's a race board, just the Blackfish. The Blackfish, I love it. You can paddle anything, and I feel that's like the design that kind of put me on the map as a race board designer. So that one's close to my heart. So yeah, those two boards.
Nice. Is there anything else you want to share with the viewers before we leave it there?
I just want to encourage everyone to stay safe and stay healthy. This is almost over, I'm hoping. Support your local surf shop, support your local shaper. I've been selling a couple boards, fortunately, this week, and it really, really helps. It's a tough situation being closed, so support your local shaper, your local surf shop, and just be stoked. Give me a high five next time I run into you. And
thank you for tuning in to this episode of Voices of SUP. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I really did enjoy chatting with Dave, learning about asymmetric shapes and a bit more about his life as well. If you're a pro subscriber, head over to SUPboarder Magazine or scroll down now to access that pro content. Or if you want to leave a comment, please leave a comment below. Happy to answer any questions and hear from you all out there. Thank you. We'll see you next time.